Rain poured mercilessly that night, turning the city lights into blurry streaks through the cold glass walls of the towering building. Inside, Ethan Cole, the youngest CEO of Cole Enterprises, stood with his hands in his pockets, emotionless as always, staring out into the storm. The world knew him as a man of steel, someone who never smiled, never bent, and never cared. But as lightning cracked across the sky, his sharp gaze caught something that made him freeze: a woman, sitting on the edge of the company's parking lot, drenched to the bone, holding a baby close to her chest, feeding it beneath a torn umbrella. For a reason he couldn't explain, Ethan couldn't look away. He had seen poverty before, but this was different. There was something hauntingly peaceful about her. Despite the storm, despite her trembling hands, her eyes were gentle, filled with a kind of love that didn't belong to this cruel world. And something inside him shifted, something he thought had died years ago. He didn't know then that this woman would change everything. The guards had already noticed her earlier, whispering among themselves. She'd been sitting outside for hours, refusing to move. When one of them approached to chase her away, she'd only smiled weakly and said, "Please, just let me rest for a while. I won't bother anyone." And then she'd curled up around her baby again, whispering soft lullabies into the storm. Ethan was not the kind of man who interfered. He lived by logic, not emotion. But as the rain intensified and the image of that fragile figure soaked to her bones lingered in his mind, he found himself walking out of the elevator, down to the lobby, and out into the cold. He didn't even carry an umbrella. The rain hit his suit, plastering it to his body as he stepped closer. The woman looked up, startled, her face pale, her lips trembling from the cold. Still, her first instinct was to cover the baby, not herself. "Sir, I'm sorry. I'll move. Please, just let me stay until the rain stops," she said softly, her voice hoarse but calm. Ethan stared at her, really looked. Her clothes were torn, her shoes muddy, her eyes tired yet impossibly kind. And the baby looked barely a few months old, wrapped in a faded blanket that couldn't keep out the chill. "Do you have somewhere to go?" he asked, his tone flat but curious. She hesitated. "I did. But not anymore." He didn't know why that answer hurt. Maybe because there was truth in her voice, raw and helpless. Something he hadn't felt in years. "Come inside," he said finally. "You'll get sick if you stay here." She blinked, unsure if she'd heard correctly. "Sir, I can't." "You can. And you will." His tone left no room for refusal. Inside the lobby, warmth filled the air. The security staff looked stunned as their cold, unreachable boss stood beside a drenched woman carrying a baby. He gave them one look, and they turned away, pretending not to see. He told his assistant to prepare a room in the guest quarters and have food brought up immediately. The woman kept thanking him over and over, but Ethan didn't respond. He just turned and walked away, his mind strangely unsettled. For hours after that, he couldn't focus on work. Her face, her quiet courage, stayed in his mind. When morning came, he went to check on her. The baby was asleep, and she was sitting by the window, watching the sunrise. She smiled faintly when she saw him. "I don't know how to thank you," she said. "You've already done more than anyone ever has." Ethan didn't answer right away. "You should tell me your name." "Lena," she said softly. "And this is my son, Noah." He nodded, studying her. "Where is his father?" Her smile faded. She looked down at her baby and whispered, "Gone. A car accident 3 months ago. I lost my home soon after. I've been trying to find work, but no one hires someone with a baby." For a long moment, Ethan said nothing. He understood loss. He'd buried his emotions years ago when his own mother died in poverty because his father had abandoned them. He had promised himself he'd never care again. But now, hearing her story, it was as if the walls he'd built around his heart started to crack. She wasn't begging. She wasn't broken. She was surviving, for her child. "Stay here for a few days," he said quietly. "Until you find something." Tears welled up in her eyes. "Thank you, sir, but I don't want pity." "It's not pity," he said, voice steady. "It's a chance." That night, as Ethan stood by his window again, he saw her through the glass rocking the baby to sleep, humming softly. For the first time in years, he felt peace. And he didn't realize that the more he tried to keep his distance, the more his heart began to move toward her. Days turned into weeks. Lena helped around the office's daycare when she could, always polite, always quiet. The employees whispered no one could understand why their icy CEO allowed her to stay. But Ethan didn't care what they thought. He found himself looking forward to hearing Noah's laughter in the hallway. He noticed how Lena's smile warmed the cold corners of the building. The world around him, once sterile and mechanical, suddenly felt alive. But fate, as always, had a way of testing hearts just when they begin to heal. One evening, Ethan's board of directors confronted him, accusing him of losing focus, of letting some woman interfere with his professionalism. It infuriated him. Yet, he couldn't deny their words had power. He was changing, and they saw it as weakness. That same night, when Lena overheard some of the gossip spreading through the office, she made a painful decision. She packed her few belongings, wrapped Noah tightly in his blanket, and left a short note on the table. "Thank you for everything, Mr. Cole. You gave me more than shelter, you gave me hope. But I can't be the reason people question your name. I'll be fine. Please don't look for me." When Ethan found the note, something inside him broke. He searched everywhere, through rain and night, but she had vanished. Days turned to weeks, weeks to months. The warmth she brought had left with her, and the office returned to its cold silence. Ethan threw himself back into work, but nothing filled the emptiness she left behind. It was almost a year later when fate crossed their paths again. He was driving home through the city when he stopped at a small roadside cafe, something he never did. Through the window, he saw a familiar figure inside, serving tea to customers with a smile. Her hair was shorter now, her clothes simple, but that same light still shone in her eyes. Lena. And little Noah, bigger now, sat near the counter, drawing with crayons. Ethan froze for a moment before stepping inside. She turned, shocked to see him, her lips parting but no words coming out. "You left without saying goodbye," he said softly. Her voice trembled. "I had to. I didn't want to ruin your reputation." He smiled, something rare and sincere. "You didn't ruin me, Lena. You reminded me what it means to be human." Tears rolled down her cheeks as he took a step closer. "I can't offer you pity or apology," he said. "But I can offer you a home, not as charity, as family." Lena looked at him, then at Noah, who smiled innocently at them both. For the first time in years, she let herself believe in hope again. And as rain began to fall outside once more, the same kind that had brought them together once, Ethan reached for her hand. This time, he wouldn't let her face the storm alone.